So, welcome to Wild Outside. I think this is 6, 7, I don't know. We had a little bit of a shaky start, but I think we got it wired now. Thanks to Seth Bigham here from L2 Outside. He's got some announcements to make. And before I introduce our awesome guests this week, a couple little things about Wild Trails. Wild Trails has got an event coming up on Saturday. If you're a paddleboard racer, Choo-Choo Chase. Registration is still open. You can register. Come here to OddStory, which is where we are having this podcast Friday. I think we've talked about from 4 to 6 on Friday to register. And you can also register race day. It's a 7-mile and a 3-mile paddle race out at Booker T, Washington. Really, really cool place to try paddleboard racing or canoe, kayak. And it doesn't matter what you're paddling. The only registration thing we have is there needs to be at least 3 craft of the same style in the event to have their own category. Otherwise, they all get dumped into the open category. So it's no big deal. If you want to bring your concrete canoe, you're welcome. So that's coming up. And then on the 12th of May is the first big race for Wild Trails is the Scenic City Marathon, half marathon, and newly added last year, 5K up at Raccoon Mountain, and probably one of the most sought after marathons in trail racing around, because it's a great course and probably one of the best venues you can find up in Raccoon Mountain. So that's all I got for Wild Trails. L2 Outside is also part of this whole thing, and thanks to OddStory. And we're missing Matt Sims, so we'll give him a big shout out because he's typically the guy that leads these conversations way better than we do. So he is traveling, sad to say. I think he's surfing today. So, poor guy. So, tell us about L2. You got some good stuff going on?
Yeah, so we used to be situated right across from the aquarium in downtown, right there on First Street and Market. We have moved across the river now to where we used to be the very first retail building on the south side of the river on Market Street. Now we're the very first building on the north side of the river on Market Street. So right when you go across the river, there's the Nautilus building right there with Revelator Coffee. We're right next door, and we're open now. So come by and say hi. Also on May 18th, we'll have a celebration of our new location and ribbon cutting. So come out and celebrate with us. We'll have some OddStory beer out there.
So you're connected with the building with Revelator.
Yes, sir.
So your parking's in Coolidge Park area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you need parking, Coolidge has several lots to offer there, or there's some free street parking even underneath the bridge.
So, awesome guest tonight. The topic that's a little bit kind of out of my, comfort zone to a certain degree is mountain biking. So we've got Mike Skiles, who's the owner of Suck Creek Cycle. Welcome. It's been around a long time, right behind Nicky's, really close to Stringer's Ridge. And I think you said 20 years, close to 20 years you've been in town. Is there any older bike shops in town? I don't think
Sure.
so.
Yeah, there are older bike shops, but
Probably not an older bike shop owner, though.
I'm the oldest bike shop owner for sure.
For sure.
Yeah. So yeah, we good opportunity for me to plug our new location, which is at 630 West Bell, a block off Cherokee. If you're familiar with Ziggy's, it's up from Ziggy's. If you're familiar with Nicky's, block down the hill there. Great parking, easy trail access. You're welcome to park there and go run, ride, whatever you'd like to do at Stringer's in the safe parking lot. So.
Well, we'll be talking a lot about mountain biking and SORBA and all your connection with that, but the Trey Wheeler's our other guest. Welcome. Got kind of a long history with the Wheeler family. It's probably one of the most, aggressively active youth families in Chattanooga, I think. Just a super solid group of kids that are really, really active in just about everything. I think you do it all, right?
A lot.
There's some super top notch. My wife was a kind of assistant cross country coach in the early days of Signal Mountain High School, and Crosby was part of that. Well, I think it's probably the second or third class. It was early on.
Yeah.
But one of the top cross country runners became a big mountain biker, and now Garrison He's one of the
He's 18. He's
one of the top high school runners in town right
yeah,
now.
well, in the state even.
For sure, yeah. So really impressed with the Wheeler family, and I don't know your two youngest ones all that well
Yeah,
compared
so
to the others.
Sully is 15, and he loves to mountain bike. He loves to fly fish, and then Callaway, our little girl, is 11. She likes to ride. She likes to run. She likes to swim.
So likes to fly fish. So paddleboarding is right up there. It's gotta be.
Paddleboarding's good, and fly fishing's great because there's a lot of good mountain bike trails near the fly fishing spots all over the southeast.
Good combo for sure. So real quick on Garrison, the big relay. How did it go out? How did it turn out?
At Knoxville, at Tom Black,
Yeah.
I guess, they won first.
That's what I
They're
thought.
ranked first in the state across all divisions, actually.
And that was the medley, right?
Yeah, the distance medley.
So I mean,
And that's Signal Mountain High School's cross country.
yes, or track team this
Track
time.
team.
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
I'm not. I mean, when I was in track, they didn't have a medley relay. I think that's a really cool event where they have 200, 400,
It's
800.
400, 800, 16, and 32.
Oh wow! So it's
It's a long race.
longer ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So
what is a medley?
So that means 4 people. It's a relay team.
different
unlike
lengths.
a 12-hour mountain bike race, for instance, in a way. But everybody
Okay.
has to run a different length.
So you get sprinters up to the
One sprinter, one mid distance, and then 2 distance guys.
distance, and it's 1,500 meters, miles.
16 and a 32.
Oh, so 2 miles.
Yeah.
2 miles is not even close to being distance in my world. So let's talk about SORBA. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that I remember hearing that, I don't know who it was in SORBA, said, we are going to build 100 miles of trails in the Chattanooga region within the next 10 years. And that was
Yeah.
maybe
10
a
years
little
ago.
bit more than 10 years ago, but I
Yeah,
think it's
yeah.
done. I think we
They-
did
They,
it, right?
did it and then some is what they
Yeah,
did.
there's more than
That's
I
what they've
think so.
done. And the great thing of going forward is it's not over.
Right.
You know, they've got that base in, and then so they've got, and they set a great example. If you look at what Knoxville's done now,
Yes.
what Nashville is doing now, they're all playing catch up.
They are.
And that gives us opportunity to throw it out there and do some more. But you know, and I would even argue that Knoxville is maybe giving us something to shoot for now
Oh,
too.
they
with their,
have.
with their
The last couple they
their
did.
Baker's Creek
Yes,
Reserve
it's
or
awesome.
whatever that is up there. But and for those of you that don't know what SORBA is, it's Chattanooga's Off-Road Bike Association and Club. It's very you know, they're the guys that get the trails made and get the trail access, the land access, and provide places for us to ride.
Well, I mean, is it safe to say that SORBA is to be a SORBA member, you're also a member of IMBA, right?
That's
Or is it-
correct.
Yeah.
You are.
So one thing as a trail builder that I've learned from the very beginning is that most, at least in the last 10 years, most of national forests, national parks, state parks, whatever, have adopted the IMBA trail building standard. They have become the I guess the most heavily acclaimed experts in trail building is through IMBA. And I'm not sure where that came from, what part of the country, but it clearly is the Bible of how to build trails. And so everybody is following that massive document, which is
There
very
are-
extensive.
Yeah, there are a few exceptions, but the IMBA trails are generally considered to be safe for most levels of riders, and they're sustainable. They're environmentally sensitive. We see a lot of trails built on private land that are not sustainable. They've got significant erosion problems, and so that's kind of the non-arguable point is
Sure.
that if you follow their standards, you're not going to be tearing up your public lands.
Well, there's no question about it, but then it also, this is probably a bigger question for you guys, because I think that's the same question I'm having debates with runners is, if you follow that kind of standard for trail building, then you're basically going to be stuck with a fairly easy trail. So if I'm an expert skier, why would I want to go to a ski area that only has bunny slopes? It's kind of a general thing.
Right.
One of the problems that I see in Chattanooga, not so much from the pedestrian only side, but I've heard this from the mountain bike side, there's just not enough really challenging technical trails other than Raccoon.
I guess it depends on your definition of challenging. People tend to divide
That's
mountain
a
biking.
relative
Yeah,
term.
it is. So,
Yeah.
so if you're talking gravity riding or downhill riding, SORBA has not built any yet, though there may be some coming. There are a couple of parks in the region, Windrock and what we call TTC, or the Trials Training Center, that do offer that experience, as well as some private areas.
And I'll add to that anybody that calls high voltage not challenging
Yeah.
is, and high voltage is a trail on Raccoon
doubt.
Mountain that's it's at least got some exposure.
Well, it
It
is.
is.
It's I mean,
somewhat challenging
again,
too.
thanks to SORBA, it's
But
large start.
I agree that there are we are lacking somewhat there. But coming from someone that's ridden really good trails all over the country, I've ridden in Squamish, British Columbia, which has got more than challenging trails. So, and that's so challenging, in fact, that I'm known around here as a pretty darn good rider. I'm an average girl in Squamish.
Wow.
If you can't ride the stuff, you just don't ride. But it's also, I like to say that the beauty of the trails we have is the flow and the fun of it, because the faster you ride the trail, the more fun it can be. So challenging could be how fast you can ride a reasonably technical trail. So I'm going to argue that we still have some of the best trails in the country because they are good for that. I mean, Squamish is scary. It's fun, but it's scary.
Scary, meaning there's a lot of
of
air.
steep, a lot of
Big drops, yeah.
I mean, a lot of opportunity to, if you don't commit, you can be in trouble. But and it's fun. But I still say I like riding here.
Yeah.
5 Points, the new trails that across from the Land Trust, or I call them the liquor trails, which are the whiskey trails or whatever you want to call them. Those trails are fabulous.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got a good blend of challenging, but they're also, the way they use the lay of the land to get you up the trails and back down. But we're building some good stuff around here.
How about the new Atlas Trail up on
I
Enterprise
haven't
7?
ridden the new Atlas Trail yet because I'm still recovering from my broken wrist, but which
Now,
would bring up
is
another.
there a story on that?
Those are good stories. So
it-
Hand Up Gloves does a monthly event, which is typically a time trial of some sort. And so Ed Perry was hosting this event at his house, and he's got a 2-mile loop. It's wintertime. I'm not in shape. I've got an electric mountain bike. I load up. I'm taking that electric mountain bike. I'm going to see if I can, set the bar for the rest of the field who are always in shape on my e-bike. I think I could have done it, but I got 3 pedals in, struck a pedal on the high side of the trail, pitched me into a tree, and nailed the tree, and the impact broke my wrist. So I'm down on the ground, get up, I come out of the woods, and promptly pass out inside the truck. And so yeah, good story. So so my girls just say, yeah, that's what you get, Dad. That's what you get.
You ride an electric bike, that's right.
But the e-bikes are coming too, so that's another aspect of mountain biking that's within the next 5 years is going to be a point of contention, a point of how do we build trails and how do we get them included in the mountain biking experience, because you can argue that they don't belong, but I'm going to say they do. They're a lot of fun. They're not a motorcycle.
Yeah.
That just allow you to get up the hills without the hills sinking.
I'm totally with you. Anything it takes to get more people out.
You're still getting exercise. You're still getting great
still have
exercise.
to
It
use
just
it,
actually it's just going to enhance the experience, in my opinion.
For people that don't understand exactly how like a mountain bike that's electric would work, could you?
It's a pedal assist, is what it is. So it's not like you have a throttle that controls how fast you go. Basically the motor on this electric assisted bike, while you're pedaling, gives you assist up the hill. And it only does it to a certain level. So most mountain bikes are limited to a 20 mile an hour assist. So once you get too close to 20 mile an hour, the assist goes away. And the assist is adjustable as well. But so all that said, it's basically, say you rode at Stringers where there's a lot of hills, you get up the hills pretty easy with an e-bike. And they do way more. They probably add 25, 30 pounds to the bike just with the battery and the motor. And they don't have an infinite range. They've got about a 20, 30 mile range to work with.
Yeah, and SORBA is actively working. We don't own any trails at all. We don't own any land. So we are working with the land managers, properties where we've built trails, to see what we can do to accommodate e-bikes, give people that are interested in that a wonderful experience while keeping everybody else safe.
Where would somebody, can you go to your shop and rent an e-bike if somebody wants to get,
I have
or
a
even a mountain bike?
demonstrator. I have some demonstrator bikes. I haven't gotten that far into that market to do that.
Yep.
Chattanooga Electric Bike Store that's on Main Street likely has more bikes that you can go and try out, and they're certainly more experienced with it because that's what they do. But I have a feeling that within the next 5 years, most traditional bike shops are going to be in the e-bike market, or they're going to be losing a big chunk of a market that's available.
So we've just got a few minutes left. What's the next big deal in SORBA land?
So we just completed the Atlas Trail at Enterprise South, which
6-ish miles.
is 5.5. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So admittedly, we're working through some issues. That trail is located outside of the fence. So we've had some issues with some vandalism and whatnot that we're working on right now with Hamilton County and other interested parties. But next, I guess we have two things that we're looking at, and one is a 200-acre or so park that we're working on in conjunction with Land Trust of Tennessee and the Southeastern Climbers Coalition. It would be a gravity kind of trail down the side of Signal, probably with a very difficult cross-country, end quote, trail back up. And then we're also working on a 65-mile loop that would run from Raccoon Mountain down to basically Powell's Crossroads and back up to Suck Creek.
Yeah.
And we're doing that with the Tennessee River Gorge Trust and some others.
Yeah, that's
Both exciting projects.
That's really, really cool stuff.
That one really sparks my interest.
Because if we complete that, when we complete that, we would have the potential to do a 100-mile mountain bike ride
Easily, yeah.
here in Chattanooga.
So real quick, do you have any idea about, because I get a lot of questions about this, and this is not a SORBA question, so you may not know the answer, but many people are familiar with the Gill Trail, familiar with the Jackson Gap Trail up to the bottom of Covenant, which will then connect you with the Covenant to Land Trust trails. What's the status? I mean, it's said that it's going to be open to mountain biking, but
that whole system, the intention is so the stuff that's under the management of the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, one of the mandates is multi-use. So yes, it will be open to mountain bikes, but also to equestrian riders. That's the stance that Georgia's taken. Again, that's not SORBA's stance or anybody else.
That trail, the Jackson Gap Trail, could be an equestrian trail.
It's interesting. It's interesting. So the Georgia stuff is multi-use, and then the other pieces that the River Gorge Trust are working with us on are dedicated mountain bike, hiking, and running. At this point, I don't believe there's a plan for equestrian access, at least not to the entirety. There may be for pieces.
And when is the time frame? Man, that's the big question. Still national park land, right?
So you've got about 5 or 6 different players, including there's a bit of national park. There's a good bit of land under control of TDEC and TWRA. There's some private land that we have access rights to, and there are a few pieces of private land that we don't have worked out quite yet. Now, fortunately, the gaps are small, and they're becoming fewer pretty rapidly. We're getting to where we need to be, but I don't know the answer, because if we've got a gap,
Gotta fill it.
we got to fix the
Gotta
gap.
fix it, yeah.
Now, the piece on the side of Signal Mountain, I believe, will happen faster.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have got to be so thankful for our forefathers, to buy all this land and then gift it to, land trusts or parks or whatever
Yes.
to allow us to have these spaces. I mean, growing up in Boulder, Colorado, it's just a beautiful, absolutely stunningly beautiful place to live. But almost everywhere you look is either private or it's owned by the county that just wants this buffer to not. I mean, there's one trail that would be there and that's it. So we've got it without question. We have got the best trail city in maybe in the world for sure, certainly in this country. Because we got, not only do we have over I don't know how many hundreds of miles of trails with the combination of mountain biking and running, but we could probably pull off another 100. Obviously with the River Gorge deal, and I mean everything else we're talking about is just keeps expanding. So, and we haven't really connected over to the Pigeon Mountain area where the Penhody Trail comes through, and the whole Great Eastern Trail. There's a lot of work to be done with that, and then try to go up
I
North Chickamauga
forget
Creek.
how
and-
close Pigeon is
It's
to
close, yeah.
Cloudland. Yeah,
It's not far at all.
And
So
that could connect.
got a lot of work to do. So we're out of time. Thanks, you guys, and
Thank you.
appreciate your time.
Yeah, good discussion.
Thanks.